everyone, it's me again. Hope you're enjoying doing a bit of schoolwork again and having a routine again. So, we're going to carry on with the Creakers. We're on to chapter 20 already. It's gone really quickly. And chapter 20 is called Normellatron. No idea what that is, but I'm sure we'll find out. Okay, let's go for it then. This is a disaster. We're doomed, Ella whined, flopping onto Lucy's pillow dramatically. Norman paced around the room behind her, his feet squeaking on the creaky floorboards in rhythm. Not necessarily, he said. Oh, please, Norman. It's useless. Mama and Papa are gone. Lucy's gone. There are monsters under our beds, and yet there's only white marshmallows left. Ella inspected the half-empty packet of sweets. This is the worst day of my life. I officially quit. Lucy wouldn't quit on us, insisted Norman. She didn't give up on the grown-ups. Ella sighed. Okay, Mr. Scouty Pants, with all the badges, what do we do then? And there's Norman, having a good old think, scratching his head. And Ella being all dramatic with her marshmallows. Norman closed his eyes and thought hard as he could. What would Lucy do? As they both sat there in Lucy's bedroom, wondering what Lucy would do if she woke up and found that she was missing. What would Lucy Dunkston do if... Wait a second, Ella said, interrupting the narrator. We already know what Lucy would do. We do? Uh-huh, she already did it when the grown-ups disappeared. Norman scratched his neatly combed head, trying to remember. She put on her school uniform, he guessed. No, don't you remember what she said? How did my mum find out what was going on in the world? Ella said in her best Lucy voice. Norman's eyes lit up. The news! Right, you know what? We just worked all out. We worked all that out together. We're a team now, Norm. We've got to stick together, Ella said. Yeah, like two Transformers coming together to build an even bigger, better one, Norman agreed, excitedly linking his fingers together to demonstrate. Norman and Ella together, we are Normellatron! Ah, so that's what Normellatron is. He boomed. This time it was Ella who scratched her head, slowly. Too much? Norman asked nervously. Too much, Norm. Let's just go and switch the TV on. Okay. They both ran downstairs. Norman switched on the TV and together they began searching for news on Lucy. That is already the end of the chapter. It was a very, very short one, so I think I'm just going to go straight on to the next one in this video as well, because, you know, we need a bit more than that. So, we'll go on to chapter 21, Lucy in Creakerland. So we're back into the Woleb with Lucy. If you remember, we just left off Lucy, who found Creakerland and saw her mum, where all the grown-ups were acting like kids. So, I wonder what will happen when she's talking to her mum, when her mum is like a child again. Let's find out. With chapter 21. Mum! Lucy called out across Main Street, Creakerland. But her call was completely ignored. Not just by her mum, but by every misbehaving grown-up around. She ran straight over to her mum and helped her to her feet. She stared at her. Her mum's usually neat brown curls were frizzed and tangled, and her pyjamas were crumpled and splodged with what looked like strawberry ice cream. That was so much fun! You've got to try it! Let's go! Mrs. Dunkston cried, tugging on Lucy's arm as she tried to ride the vomit-inducing waltzer again. I think you've had enough of that for one day, Lucy said. Yes, Mummy, said Lucy's mum, mocking Lucy for being so bossy. Don't call me that! Don't call me that! Mrs. Dunkston repeated. Stop it! Stop it! It's not funny! It's not funny! Why are you being so annoying? Why are you being so annoying? I'm not annoying, you are. I'm not annoying, you are. Lucy folded her arms, let out a frustrated sigh. Her mum was acting like a spoilt child. Okay, I'm a big fat idiot, Lucy said. Mrs. Dunstan burst into uncontrollable giggles, pointing and laughing. You're a big fat idiot! You're a big fat idiot! She sang merrily. And then there's Lucy, acting like a grown-up, getting all frustrated. And her mum, Mrs. Dunstan, acting like a child. Lucy looked with worry at this grown woman in front of her, this lady who looked like her mum. What has this place done to you? She whispered. Oh, lighten up, grumpy pants. It's just a bit of fun, Mrs. Dunstan said, poking Lucy in the ribs. But this wasn't fun, not for Lucy. Not one bit. In fact, it was as far from fun as possible. Can you imagine your mum and dad pointing at you and saying, you're a big fat idiot? It might even make you want to cry, which was exactly what Lucy did. Big fat idiot tears welled up in her big fat idiot eyes and plopped out in massive drops on down her cheeks. She sobbed so hard she couldn't see. Everything was too much, too out of control, too overwhelmingly stressful. All of these responsibilities had fallen on Lucy's shoulders so suddenly she didn't even know where to begin. Saving the grown-ups, looking after Whiffington kids, confiscating dangerous items, trying to keep the place tidy. Was this what was being a grown-up felt like? Maybe the Woleb is changing me too, Lucy thought suddenly. If this place is making the grown-ups more childlike, then isn't it possible that it's making me more grown up? She shook her head angrily. If this is what being a grown-up feels like, then no thank you. No thank you very much, she cried. Being a grown-up is rubbish. Then she felt a hand on her face. A kind, warm hand, wiping away the big fat idiot tears. Once the tears cleared, Lucy's heart seemed to melt a little at what she saw. Her mum was staring right at her, a look of astonishment on her face. Mum? Lucy said. Oh, my little Lucy Pops, said Mrs. Dunstan, sounding like the woman Lucy knew. What happened? Lucy asked, wondering why her mum had suddenly woken from a strange Woleb magic. I can't really explain it, Mrs. Dunstan said, scratching her head. 1 minute, I was excited about riding these roller coasters, and then I heard something. Something that made everything else seem unimportant. What was it? You, Mrs. Dunstan said. I was calling you, trying to speak to you, Mum. Really? I don't remember that. I just remember hearing you crying. It's a sound that always made me so unhappy, ever since you were tiny, Mrs. Dunstan said, pulling Lucy in for an enormous squishy cuddle. Lucy? Yes, Mum. Where on earth are we? Mrs. Dunstan gazed around at the mayhem surrounding her. Grown-ups were sprinting about carelessly, screaming at the top of their voices, and were generally being as ungrown-up as they could be. Actually, Mum, we're not anywhere on Earth. We're below it, Lucy said, and quickly tried to explain what she learned about the Woleb and the Creakers who lived there. I've just twigged something about Woleb. Think about how you might spell Woleb and what it might sound like, what it would be like if you then wrote that backwards. I think it's quite clever. Anyway. Actually, Mum, we're not anywhere on Earth. We're below it, Lucy said, quickly tried to explain about what she'd learned about the Woleb and the Creakers who lived there. That's why I'm here, she finished. I've come to take everybody back home. If you think this place is bad, wait until you see what the kids have done to Whiffington. Oh no, what's happened? Mrs. Dunstan asked. Lucy took a deep breath. Well, there are 3 sharks in Whiffington Pool thanks to Jackson and Gilly. Billy Noshling's been stuck in a crisp vending machine for 2 days. Ella and Norman have been knocked out by dozy dust, and the whole of Whiffington is pretty much a hazard to the health of anyone who sets foot in it, Lucy explained. What about my son? A worried voice from behind her said. James Crackney? Lucy whirled around and came face to face with an anxious-looking man in polka-dot pyjamas, who appeared to have bits of candy floss stuck in his beard. She couldn't believe it. Had another grown-up snapped out of the Creakers spell too? And my daughter Suzanne. I think she's in your class, said a lady in a stripy nightie, stepping towards Lucy. Lucy looked around and realised that a handful of grown-ups had started listening to her. As she described the awful mess Whiffington was in, more and more faces began to turn her way, their eyes lighting up with interest and recognition as they woke up from their twisted woe-led magic. Fetch me my clothes at once, ordered Mayor Annoying. We must get back up there. Fetch your own blooming clothes, snapped Mrs. Annoying, the mayor's wife, stepping out of the crowd. Yes, of course, my dear, the mayor bumbled. Lucy smiled. The Woe-Leb's powers were fading. The grown-ups were growing up. Not only that, Creakland was fading too. As Lucy watched, all the roller coasters and wonderfully delicious smells transformed into what they really were, as if a strange mist was lifting. Suddenly she was surrounded by hideous piles of junk and rubbish, pumping rotten smells into the thick, pungent air. A second later the ground started to wobble. Lucy had felt this wobble before when the spider on the map moved its crooked legs. The Woe-Leb is moving! Lucy cried, and she was right. A huge tunnel twisted open, and the gnarled walls were next to where Lucy and the grown-ups of Whiffington had gathered, and Lucy glimpsed a row of small gleaming eyes looking at her from the darkness. What's going on? Mrs. Dunstan cried. It's them! Lucy said, pointing at the eyes. Who? The things that snatched you and brought you down here, Lucy said. It's the Creakers! There they all are. Lucy, with all the grown-ups around her, in their pyjamas. The Woe-Leb around them moving. Can you spot the Creakers? So, the Creakers have found them. But the grown-ups are out of their charmed way in the Woe-Leb, and they now realise what's going on and remember. So, what will happen next? Will Lucy get the grown-ups out of trouble, or will the grown-ups get Lucy out of trouble? And what will happen with the Creakers? Who knows? We'll find out next time when we get to chapter, what are we on? 22? Chapter 22. Trapped. So I will see you tomorrow for that one. Alright, see you later. Bye.